Yesterday, we had posed 8 questions to the Prime Minister before his 8 p.m. address. But as you all know, that Narendra Modi didn't care to answer any of those questions. In fact, he didn't really at all care to talk about the whole COVID pandemic or the lockdown which is continuing in the country for the last 50 days. It didn't at all appear that the Prime Minister was addressing a country in the middle of an epidemic and after 50 days of lockdown. He just told us if we are suffering, we have suffering loss, if people are in pain. So he just saluted it as sacrifice and wanted us to treat the crisis as an opportunity, and then went on to give us a new jumla, should we say, new vision of what he calls a self-reliant India. So he spoke about, let's talk about what he spoke about, because what we wanted to know, he didn't answer any of those questions. So let's see what he spoke about. He spoke about 5 pillars of India. Of course, the workers didn't figure in that. The workers and the farmers, they are not pillars according to Narendra Modi. The 5 pillars that he mentioned: the economy, infrastructure, system, which he calls a technology-driven system, demography, which he calls migrant demography, and demand and supply chain. So let's look at now the migrant workers in this framework of 5 pillars of Narendra Modi. The migrant workers, if you just take a close look, they belong, most of them, they belong to that demographic profile of young Indians. It's the young Indians who are either unemployed, or large sections of young Indians are migrant workers. So these are the people, the so-called vibrant demography, which is actually walking on India's streets now. And what did they demand? They demanded that they should be brought home, and they needed infrastructure, which we have, the railways. We have the system, the so-called technology-driven system, all of it is there. And of course, the economy depends on these migrant workers. But all these 5 pillars, if you just put them together, you will find that these 5 pillars have failed to perform in this, in the middle of this pandemic and in this lockdown. The basic demand of the migrant workers, they should be allowed to come home, the government should take responsibility for bringing them home, that was not fulfilled. Then he talked about 4 areas of reforms. He said India will become self-reliant by advancing reforms in 4 areas. Now what are these 4 areas? Land, labor, liquidity and laws. So what are these reforms that he is hinting at? We remember when Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister in May 2014, the first thing he came up with was a revised and amended Land Acquisition Act. So that Land Acquisition Amendment, which he wanted to make it into law, he didn't succeed in doing that because of tremendous opposition by India's farmers. Because after years of struggle against land acquisition, India had finally got some law where farmers were promised some compensation and some safeguards. But Narendra Modi wanted to take away those safeguards and that compensation. So farmers protested and Modi couldn't do it. Recently, just before this 2019 election, we again saw that he was trying to tamper with our Forest Rights Act, and he wanted to bring back the colonial era Forest Act. Once again, the Adivasis of this country, the opposition parties, the left parties, because of our continuous sustained protest, he didn't succeed to do that. So is he trying to do that now, using COVID-19 as a weapon, as an opportunity, and he wants to push for these land reforms, make land acquisition easier for corporates, make our Adivasis and make our farmers even more vulnerable to the corporate designs of land acquisition. He talked about labor reforms. Now, what are these labor reforms? The labor laws are being changed. Already the government has come up with some kind of new Manu Samhita for India's 4 codes, like Manu's code, some 4 codes for India's working class. And now BJP ruled state governments one after another. They are saying that all labor laws will remain suspended for 3 years. So by labor reform, does it mean that there will be no laws for India's working class? He is talking about reform of in the liquidity sector. What is the meaning? Will this whole revised or reformed liquidity, enhanced liquidity, let's say, will this enhanced liquidity mean that farmers who are demanding cancellation of all farm debt, will those debts be cancelled? All our women in the self-employed sector who have got some loans under microfinance scheme, or some entrepreneurs who have got some loans under Mudra scheme, will all those loans be cancelled? We don't know what is in store in the name of liquidity reform. But all we know is that this government has been periodically writing off big mega defaults, all those big corporates who have taken billions of rupees from India's banks, and those defaults are being first written off, and then eventually those that becomes completely bad debt, and those loans are never repaid. So we don't really know if this revised or reformed liquidity, enhanced liquidity, it will mean another loan mela for Modi ji's capitalist friends, all the crony capitalists, or the farmers and the microfinance people beneficiaries and the Mudra scheme beneficiaries, finally their loans will be cancelled. So we are waiting to see what Modi ji actually meant. And about laws. Now, many of our laws are, of course, they are archaic laws. These are all colonial era laws. For example, now we are being governed by this Epidemic Act, which is draconian colonial law. We have this sedition law, which is invoked every now and then to stop dissenting voices here. That is a colonial era law. We have this Defamation Act. So all these colonial era laws, when Modi ji talks about reform, he doesn't mean that all these colonial era draconian laws will be done away with. Rather, he wants to reinforce them, maybe giving them some new names. But he wants to take away our hard-won rights, like the rights of our citizenship, the rights of Indian working class, the rights of the peasantry to defend their land. So it's an attempt at disempowering the people of India and enslaving the working class. So we suspect that the whole thing, all these talks about reform, they won't make India self-reliant. They will only enslave the working people of India. And if the working people are enslaved, the workers, peasants, if they do not have sufficient rights, adequate rights, then that will mean that India, all our natural resources too, we won't be able to save them. Natural and human resources, they all go together. So it's a whole ploy to mortgage India, to auction India. And this is the corporate design which this government has been pursuing all these years. And now they are saying, let us treat this crisis as an opportunity to push for this reform. We have been told that this package is a mega package, 20 lakh crore rupees. Now, we have been promised some big packages even earlier. Before state elections, for example, there was a big package promised for Bihar. There have been packages promised for India's farmers. All these packages, they have turned out to be just rhetoric, and none of these packages have ever actually translated into reality. And today, we are expecting the finance minister to give us the details where the devil resides, so that we could know where from this money will come and where this money will go. But after even some 75 minutes of our press conference, we didn't really get any clear picture. So we are still in the dark about the content of the package. But we know one thing for sure. If the package doesn't ensure full payment of lockdown period wages for the entire working class, if this package does not ensure lockdown sustenance for all those affected families, at least 10,000 rupees per month for at least next 3 to 4 months. If this package doesn't mean free ration, sufficient adequate ration, let's say 10 kgs per member of every family for the next 6 months, then this package is certainly not a package for the people. It may be just a package for the public consumption. It's a package only for political propaganda. So this is very clear. Narendra Modi didn't answer the questions that India had. Narendra Modi didn't answer the pain of India of last 50 days of lockdown. He didn't answer any of the challenges that stare us in the face, whether on the health front, in terms of public transportation, in terms of employment, in terms of our sagging economy. So self-reliant India. Self-reliance has of course been the dream of India. Self-reliance has been part of the whole freedom movement vocabulary. Self-reliant, free, independent and self-reliant India. This is what India has been aiming at from all those years of 5-year plans. But now, this self-reliance, does it mean that when the people of India want to see the state, powerful, effective state intervention in areas of public health, in areas of public transportation, in areas of public distribution, in areas of education, so does it mean that the government, the state is going to abdicate all its responsibilities and just put the whole onus on the people and ask the people to be responsible for their own future? So if that is the case, this self-reliance, this mantra of self-reliance, it is not going to make India self-reliant. This is actually going to make our people disempowered, and this is going to make India weaker. Certainly, this is a manifesto for slavery. This is a document of retardation for India, document of regression, and this is not acceptable. So after 50 days of lockdown, we are still in the dark about the future, but we surely know that these are our rights that India will have to defend. Our workers, our peasants, our young people and the middle class, the whole of India will have to defend our rights and our aspirations. And this government has completely failed, especially in the middle of this pandemic and after 50 days of lockdown. So we'll have to think about other ways. The way that Narendra Modi hinted at, this is a way which can only destroy India, weaken India and destroy our democracy. This is not a way forward. We will have to find our own way forward. Thank you.